Sway Health.
Hey everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder of Sway.Health, and I'm excited to bring you the latest in our series of interviews with top leaders in healthcare marketing. And our guest today is Jodi Amendola. She's president of Amendola Communications, a Supreme Group company, and Dalton Patterson, director of health tech at Supreme Optimization, a Supreme Group company. Welcome.
Thank you. We're
Hey,
excited to be
John.
here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, excited for this discussion. I've known both of you over a lot of years, over a long time members of the Sway Health community, but excited to dive in some of the challenges you see people facing and get your insights and perspectives. But before we go there, Jodi, why don't you kick us off? Tell us about yourself and Supreme Group.
Sure. I'm president and founder of Amendola. I have a 30 plus year history in healthcare, health tech, PR, and marketing. I've guided companies of all stages and sizes of development for organic growth, strategic acquisition, IPOs, you name it. Have great relationships with the media, the analysts, and have helped clients build their brands, strengthen their competitive positioning, and drive bottom line results. Late last year, my company was acquired by the Supreme Group, which is a next generation agency platform purpose built for life sciences and healthcare marketing communication. So it's awesome. We have 9 agencies on the platform, all who have a passion for healthcare and health tech. And we help our clients grow across 3 connected channels: brand and creative, PR and communications, and performance digital. And all of our services are powered by real-time data and embedded AI. So clients get outcomes, and I can tell you firsthand that our clients absolutely love it because we truly are full service. They have one point of contact and can get all of their marketing communications needs under one umbrella.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a big trend, interestingly enough. And the
Mhm.
Supreme Group's chomped up a lot of Sway Health sponsors. So,
Yes,
which makes
it's
sense
true.
with everything Supreme Group is doing. It makes sense to bring together the sponsors on the platform as you described. Dalton, how about yourself?
Yeah, so great to see you, John, and just echoing the history consolidating here. It's cool that Jody and I met the year that I met you. It was like 2016 or 2017 at Hitmic, now Sway. And now we've got these worlds clashing, both from a personal perspective and business perspective, which is just super cool. But yeah, Dalton Patterson, over 10 years in healthcare marketing. So started in-house on the RCM side and was in that healthcare finance sector for many years. And almost 2 years ago, made the jump over to agency. So Clarity Quest is where I started my agency life, and Clarity Quest rolled up into Supreme Optimization, which is a part of the Supreme Group umbrella earlier this year. So super excited to continue seeing Supreme Group drive forward and continuing this journey in agency life, which is really fun.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it's great to have both of you here with all your experience and your perspectives. Jodi, talk to me about this. What are some of the biggest challenges that we're facing in health tech marketing right now?
Oh my gosh, it's a really tough market. If I would say that there's one word to describe it, John, it would be cautious. There are just budget constraints, budget cuts, budget freezes, delayed buying cycles. I mean, these are the words that I literally hear every single day. Just companies are tightening their belts, and it's really been a tough market for many, especially in health tech. The profitability pressures are very real. As you know, health tech, healthcare companies have laid off tens of thousands of workers over the past year. Companies are reassessing their costs, they're refocusing on core products, and responding to investor expectations. So that's kind of what we're dealing with today. Dalton, anything that you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, it just continues to be a precarious market. Everything from a B2B perspective and even segments of B2C, like all these health tech companies that we're serving and selling into are either affected by providers or affected by payers. And there's the same narrative across the provider sector and the payer sector where people are trying to get paid the most and what they're owed for their services, and there is just an underlying impact that is continuing to occur across the provider sector and the payer sector. So, that automatically, straight line impacts all these health tech companies that are coming to market with these really rich and dynamic solutions that could make all of our lives significantly easier from a healthcare perspective. But people are just struggling getting paid across the board. So, we're seeing that, like I said, at the payer provider sector, at the health tech, and then that just trickles down from there. So,
Yeah.
I also think that many firms are feeling like they're competing with more players in the market. So
yeah.
they're struggling to differentiate their offerings, and then are up against the longer sales cycles, and decision makers are facing more constraints due to their own budget constraints. So it's kind of a
Mhm.
vicious cycle right now.
Yeah. And it feels like there's a layer of uncertainty on top of everything that you said,
100%.
right? Which is
100%.
nuts. But what does that all mean? And what does that future look like? Which I think is tough. Dalton, what would you say? Like, how can marketers still make an impact even with these squeezed budgets in this volatile, uncertain market?
Yeah. Well, so you said I want to make one point on budgets, as far as healthcare marketing budgets go. In a perfect world, a healthcare marketing budget should be 6 to 8% of your annual recurring revenue as far as
True.
a company goes.
Mhm.
So, it's rare that we find that inside of health tech anyway. But even if you're only 1 or 2% of that annual recurring revenue, I would say to these companies, if your annual recurring revenue is even staying steady as opposed to increasing, do not touch your marketing budget. Because right now, where other companies are pulling back and other marketing budgets are becoming more restrictive, you've got an opportunity to accelerate. Ad spend is decreasing. Therefore, the value of your ads will go further. As trade show budgets continue to decrease, you are more likely to be able to strike a better deal and make your dollar go farther. So, without getting into the finance sector here, it's kind of that idea of buy as much as you can and do as much as you can while other people are pulling back. But if budgets are restricted, one thing that I would tell anybody is drive into your organic marketing. You've got a significant amount of native platforms that do not cost you anything to be marketing yourself, to be saturating content, to be extending your reach. And one thing that everybody needs to remember is that before B2B is B2B, it is H to H. So what that means is you're human to human before you're business to business. And you've got that interpersonal connectivity that can happen in that human to human connection across all of your organic marketing channels, even before you pull in your different channel segments and marketing initiatives that cost you money.
Hmm.
So really, if you're crunched, if your budget's decreasing, if you're trying to figure out how to go that extra mile, then really step back and look at all of your organic channels and figure out how you can make your reach work there.
So I'd love to jump in and add. So typically, what we see in a tough market is marketing budgets, PR budgets slashed, canceled. But really, the wiser strategy is to maintain that spend, right?
Mhm.
Even during down markets, because tough times often lead to increased competition for a shrinking pie. And PR, for example, can help you generate that awareness, increase your
Mhm.
brand recognition, and get that piece of the pie. And so we have one company right now that we're working with that wants to do just that. They need to rise above the noise because their competitors have been outspending them, and now they're going to level up and outspend them. That's not always possible. I get it. But all of our clients, the number one goal is to fuel that sales pipeline. So you
Mhm.
can't just stop and start PR and marketing. Those that stay the course, and who find innovative ways and new ways of marketing outreach to their prospects are the ones who will emerge from a tougher market faster and in better shape. So I can give you an example. We know, like, for example, on the days that we send out a press release or a thought leader article publishes or a podcast runs, our clients see an uptick in web traffic. So that, leads to increased awareness and momentum. And if you have a steady cadence of that going on over time, you will help to keep your company as, top of mind out there and help to dominate the conversation.
Mhm.
Interesting.
So, another option you have to think about is really being laser focused and targeted, not that spray and pray approach, but more focused to ABM, which I know Dalton would assess to. His campaigns are
Yeah.
super, super targeted. And remember that everything works together as an integrated campaign. So, PR, marketing, social, digital, there are strategic ways to leverage even a reduced budget, but my whole thing is really stay the course. And probably one of the most cost effective ways is to just up your LinkedIn presence. I mean, everybody's on LinkedIn these days, right? It's just where it's at, and companies do notice you whether they are engaging with your posts or not. They're seeing you. I can tell you firsthand. I get a lot of business that way. So it's a great opportunity. You can join groups, network, share information. And it's also just a great way to showcase your thought leadership, your personality, especially if you're not, too self-serving and making it as an infomercial for your company, but
Mhm.
sharing videos or tips or lessons learned and being educational and informative and kind of varying things up. And of course, since we're here to talk about health, you want to post from health as well.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting what you talk about. There's something about momentum with marketing, right? And
100%.
creating momentum, keeping momentum. It is interesting. I was thinking back to the customer panel at the Sway Health Live conference, and the CIO said, "Right now, if you can't lower costs, I can't buy you." Then he said something that really stood out to me. He's like, "But you can educate me on what I need to buy once budgets change again." And I was like,
Yes.
oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting. They don't, maybe they're not as overwhelmed with researching companies. So now is a good time to educate them on what the buying process is. So, like, how do you prioritize? It's interesting, Jodi. You mentioned kind of LinkedIn is an
Yes.
interesting place to kind of do it. Where else would you say
So
how should they choose to prioritize with the limited budget that they may have?
100%. So it's going to depend on their goals and their budget and the target audiences. Like, and do they have conferences coming up that they can leverage? But one thing I would also say they definitely need to level up, and we're getting so much demand for this last year and a half, is messaging. It's so important in a
Mhm.
noisy, crowded marketplace to be able to succinctly tell your organization's value. So that
Mhm.
elevator pitch, having a strong elevator pitch, a memorable elevator pitch, because you only get one chance to make a first impression. So that well-crafted pitch that clarifies what your organization does, why it matters, can make a big difference. It can help open doors to opportunities, partnerships, clients. So that is
Love it.
definitely one thing I would say that is easy to do before you engage in any marketing communications program, and very important to do in this volatile marketplace.
Well, and how has that
Mhm.
message changed given the current market dynamics? That's fascinating. Dalton, what would you add?
Yeah, so from a prioritization perspective, I mean, you've got to, if you have the budget and the capability to drive that message directly to your buyer persona, then exhaust those efforts first. So I'm talking LinkedIn ads, Microsoft ads, Google ads, areas where we know that we can take that consolidated persona messaging, just like Jody was talking about, and drive that message directly to the buyer. You know, John, going back to what you said, that CIO that said, I may not be able to buy right now, but I can buy in 12 months.
Mhm.
That 12 to 18 month sales cycle is very, very familiar for the
Mhm.
majority of health tech.
And
So it's
starts now.
making sure, what's that?
And it starts now.
And it starts
Yes.
now. That's exactly right. So it's making sure that those awareness, consideration, and conversion ads are all mixed throughout that buyer persona's buyer's journey, as they're continuing to scour through digital and their social channels and their paid and website channels and otherwise, Google search, AI search, really just making sure that the right message is in front of that target audience. And LinkedIn ads, Google, Microsoft, have all become very, very aggressive in their ability to target from a title perspective, facility name perspective, or otherwise. So there's really not a reason to take the message and force it directly in front of the buyer at this day and age.
Interesting.
Also, I think I was on a call with Dalton recently and learned, it used to be you needed to touch a prospect like 7 times, 7 touch points. And now, what did you say, Dalton? It's like 70?
Yeah, the
Um,
rule of seven has become the rule of 70. So you need to think in an omni-channel way that you're going to just continue to touch that buyer in their buyer's journey, with your brand multiple times before they actually convert to that conversation.
I
I
gotta
also
chew on
think,
that. That's interesting.
if you're trying to save dollars to do it, it's taking that one great idea and leveraging it across multiple formats. So,
Mhm.
when resources are tight, take that one piece of content and consider how you can repurpose across multiple channels or touch points to maximize your impact and reach.
Yeah. I love that. Repurposing's always been a core
Repurpose, repurpose,
principle of
repurpose.
Sway Health, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
absolutely. There's no reason to continually invent when you have good stuff.
It is interesting, Dalton, this idea of 7 versus 70, right? As Jody
Mhm.
points out, like, and how that's evolved. Maybe because the digital touch points are much more fleeting as they pass through
Mhm.
your feed or whatnot. But along those same lines, we see in-person events still thriving in many big
Mhm.
ways. What I
Yeah.
think we see, at least at Sway Health, is maybe consolidation by vendors to choose ones where they go all out rather than going to 100 of different events. I think maybe that's the trend we kind of see as being
Yeah.
more selective in what they choose. But like, why are in-person health tech specific events particularly valuable for organizations, and why should they be spending dollars there and try and maximize their efforts in those events that they do attend?
Well, obviously,
Yeah.
there's nothing like an in-person event, right?
Mhm.
I think we all suffered during COVID when we couldn't see each other. And for
Mhm.
folks like Dalton and I, it's all about networking, networking, networking. So we definitely want to be out there in person, meeting with prospects, with partners. And it doesn't have to be having a big booth. There are other ways. Obviously, you can have a presence in a partner booth or um, host a happy hour or a dinner. You don't have to be behind a booth to be successful at a big event.
Mm.
Yeah. And unless you're in a sector of healthcare where you're doing massive EHR integrations or something to that extent, the trade show, getting to visit with somebody at a trade show may be the only time that you're face to face with that person. Your communications may become solely digital beyond that point. And it goes back to what Jody said as well. You have one opportunity to make a first impression. If you're not at a trade show, that's happening, through a digital medium, with your messaging. If you're at a trade show, you've got the opportunity, to really build rapport with somebody face to face. But I have a
The one
rule.
thing, oh,
Oh, go, no, no, no. Go ahead, Jody. I'll,
no,
I'll
I
wrap
was
back to
just going to say
I'll
if
wrap back
you're
to
going
my
to
rule.
take the time to go to a conference, the one thing you have to do is take time in advance to set up your schedule
Yeah,
because meetings won't just happen. Of course, you're going to meet people at networking events and the happy hours and things like that. But if you take the time to set up your schedule in advance to meet with your prospects, your partners, whoever it is that you want to,
yeah,
it will pay off.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was actually at the very first Sway Health conference. Someone did a presentation, said, "What's your plan before the event, during the event, and then after the event. And it's like, yeah, exactly. It's not just, hey, I'm going to show up and the customers are going to beat down my door, right? It takes planning and effort to do it right. So let's
Mhm.
talk about that. The Health USA conference is coming up very quickly. What would you say is maybe the best way to maximize your ROI at these events? Maybe Dalton, you could start, and then Jodi.
Yeah. Well, so I want to say one thing as far as the in-person events go, and then I'm just going to loop it into
Sure.
my answer. But when you're in those face-to-face situations and meeting somebody for the first time, I always say learn first and sell second,
Mm.
because you want to cut through the noise and build trust with people. And you're not going to do that if you're immediately jumping into a sales pitch. So coming off of the backside of speaker sessions or tech demo demonstrations or other things to that extent, really making sure that you're building rapport with that person and doing the knowledge share ahead of just automatically transitioning into let me pitch you these services, because that conversation that you're having with that person is wrapped around their pain points, what they've learned, what they are overcoming, or what they have actively overcome, and needing to advance that at some capacity. So, yes, we have countless capabilities from a marketing saturation perspective and services that we can offer where we can pitch until we're blue in the face, and we've got marketing services that we can sell. But really, like, those people need to know that we know what we're talking about in healthcare, life sciences, and otherwise, before we ever try to make a sales pitch. So learn first, sell second. I digress. Um, as far as making sure that every penny counts whenever you're at health, I mean, make sure that you've got your plan established and stick to it. Be scheduling meetings. When I was in house, one thing that I used to always think about is, while your booth is a major catalyst of generating leads, you need to have a greater exhibit hall plan. You need to have a hallway plan. You need to have a speaking session plan. And you need to make sure that your entire team is sold out and looking for the opportunities in which you can be capitalizing your time in all of those areas. All the way down to what is the lunch plan when you're sitting with those other 7 to 8 people in the exhibit hall eating lunch. You Let me step back. Everybody is going after the C-level of the top health systems across the United States. That is a common trend. Everybody wants to talk to those individuals. Those individuals have to eat, and food is available in one area. So you would be surprised how frequently you're going to sit down with the CIO or the CFO of X health system that you maybe have been targeting for the last 18 months. Bear in mind, do not sell to them immediately. Learn something from them first, talk to them about what they have sought after to see at the conference, and then work the conversation into the mix as to who you are, what you are, and what you could potentially do. All of that can be done in 15 minutes over a plate of cold pasta and what could potentially be a soggy
Convention
Would it
salad.
have to be
food.
So
cold, Dalton?
I mean, it
It's
generally is.
interesting.
I kind of prefer the hot pasta, but you know.
Well, give or take, it depends on the
It
conference
depends
that you're
on how
going to.
quickly you get through the line. Do you
That's
ever do
true.
the double dip, Dalton? Dalton, you know what the double dip is?
I
You know,
guess not. What's
you
what's the
sit
double
there. I
dip?
mean, you can do it. You can do a triple dip if you're really brave, but you get half a portion of what you want, or you can get the full portion. You sit down, and then you say goodbye, and then you go get dessert, and then you go sit at another table. Then you get the double, two tables of people that you potentially, yeah. I
Of
mean, if
course.
you really like the person, you just say, hey, I need to go get dessert, and then you come back and you can, dig deeper, right? But anyway, there's my little secret of going to too many
That's
conferences and
no,
networking with
So
too many
so
that's
people.
then
it.
when you get
Great.
home and get on the scale, you've gained about what, 10 pounds after a few
No,
days?
that's why you have to take a smaller portion, right?
Oh,
To be able to do it. Or, I mean, usually you want dessert. So you can just say, oh, thanks, to go. And then you go get
But
dessert. And then you go sit at another table.
here's the thing, though. If 10 pounds equates to $3 million in ROI,
it's worth it.
I can think of a whole lot of people that would take that 10 pounds for that $3 million in ROI.
If you
That's
have
a
to
good
take it
point.
for the team, you take it for the team. I get it.
Jodi, what would you add as far as getting the best ROI out of events like health?
Yeah, so I'm coming from a different perspective, right? So if we're there, one of the things, if you're you have your clients there, you can do videos, you can videotape the executives. It's a great opportunity to generate content from the sessions, to report back on it, to leverage
Mhm.
for your marketing and social media activities. And then also a ton of what we do is set up one-on-one meetings with key journalists and industry analysts to for our clients to share their stories, especially
Mhm.
anything that they are announcing at health. So that goes a long way for those, those meet and greets, to be able to leverage throughout the rest of the year. Um, yeah,
And it's
Yeah,
about that
I oh
relationship, right? It's amazing. People think I should just meet someone and get a story, right? Like, and
Mhm.
it
maybe
doesn't
it
work
used
like
to be that
that.
way, but a lot of times it is. What's the relationship, and how can you build the relationship? Dalton, you were going
Yeah.
to say something?
Yeah, so just the final thing that I would say too, as far as your lead capture goes on the backside of your show, one
Mhm.
thing that I would encourage everybody to do, do not send just mass email blasts. It is worth your time based off of the amount of time and the amount of money that you spent to be at that show, to send a one-to-one email, to make that LinkedIn connection, to send that follow-up message. Great to meet you. Great for the great conversation. Can't wait until our paths cross again. Don't just fall back to the bulk follow-up methodology. It is
Customize.
worth your time. Yes, it is worth your time as a marketer. It is worth your time as business development and sales to send that customized one-to-one message, really being intentional about the interaction that you had with that person or those people.
Mm,
Can I tell you my favorite story about Sway Health?
yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So I attended the first Sway Health in Vegas. How many years ago was that, John?
Man, I lose track. 12, I think. Is that where we're
Okay.
at? Something like
So
that.
it was very small at the time. There were mostly agencies and very few prospects. That's changed, right? The dynamics have changed through the years. But I was able to meet with one potential prospect, but she had an agency, and was happy with the agency, but kind of kept in touch. And she said, should things change, I'll circle back with you. It was years later, I think it was 5 or 7 years later, I actually heard from her, and she said our account director left the agency ready to talk. And we met. This was right before COVID, and they've been a client ever since. So that all happened at Sway, and I just thought you'd like to know that.
It only took 12 years for the investment to pay off. But ironically,
That's
that's
okay.
exactly what happens in healthcare, right? Like,
A
That's
hundred
it.
percent. And this is the market we're in right now, right? I
yeah.
had a
So
client,
going,
this is unfortunately, yeah. I have a client that sells to payers, and their sales cycle was typically 1 year. Now it's two. That's
Mm.
just that's just the reality of the world that we're living in,
and
and
that's
I guess
that's
why
what I
we're
was going to
talking
say.
today.
I mentioned a 12 to 18-month sales cycle earlier, but in some instances it's 5 to 7 years. So
Yeah,
really lock in with that nurturing and continued education because
yeah,
it pays off.
It is
yeah,
interesting how that's true, right? And ironically, it's true in healthcare marketing for agencies like yourselves, but
yeah.
it's true in health IT where either the timing's not right, the budget's not right, the organization's not right. And guess what? CIOs move as much or more than anyone else, right?
Mhm.
If a CIO gets past 3 years, it's amazing. And so, they might be at one organization that's not ready for whatever health IT solution you have, or whatever other solution you might have, but then they switch and now they're an organization that can. And
Mhm.
so I think that's the other part of the message, right, that we're talking about here is that these relationships are long term. Healthcare is very incestuous, and they
Yes,
Mhm.
transfer between organizations. They often don't
That's
yes,
leave
it.
healthcare. Like we don't
yes.
get a lot of CIOs from outside of healthcare. They come from
No,
within healthcare. They switch hospitals, things like that.
100%.
And so
Yes.
building that value is important long term.
Yes,
Mhm.
it's a very niche industry, and people appreciate the expertise and experience that we have, or that a CIO has, for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and you can burn that person too, that they'll never work for you again. So that's the other part. If you're too aggressive in what you do and you're not providing value, then they'll remember that as well, good and bad.
Never Never burn a bridge in
Yeah.
health tech.
No, no.
Never burn a
Or
bridge in
any,
health tech. Well,
honestly,
anywhere,
or in life,
anywhere.
right? It's a good
Yes,
lesson to learn. Why burn a
yes,
bridge when you can just be nice to everybody?
that's
Yeah,
There's
right.
no reason.
I love that.
That's
The
right.
culture of
Yeah.
nice in marketing, it
Yeah.
pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's
absolutely.
important.
Love it. Jodi, Dalton, we could talk forever. We probably will at the next Sway Health Live conference, and at Health, we'll be there as well, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Look forward
But I
to it.
appreciate you both taking time to talk with us, to share your insights and perspectives, and help give some understanding to the healthcare marketing community here at Sway Health. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare marketing content like this, be sure to check it out at sway.health. Thanks so much.
thanks, John.
Thank you. Thanks so much.